everybody. So I am almost finished my first read of my winter themed TBR, and I thought I would do a deep dive reading vlog into this one, Wintering: The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katharine May. I don't think I've ever done a deep dive vlog into a nonfiction book before, so I thought that would be cool. And I also am really feeling the urges this winter to hibernate and kind of burrow into warm blankets and not be out in the world. And I think part of that is recovering from having COVID over the holiday break. Part of it is having had a really busy fall season where I was, working hard and pushing myself more than normal. And I guess the other part is just this sense of like, whenever I'm out in the world and kind of engaging with the world the way I was with this residency, I always feel this period where I need to pull back a bit, but it's very counterintuitive in our culture, in North American culture. You're supposed to keep pushing and keep putting yourself out there and keep, being in the world. And I'm just not made like that as an introvert, but also just as a person who finds my energy level really ebbs and flows with natural cycles and natural rhythms. So when it's winter, I naturally want to hibernate. I'm not interested in like being as out in the world as I am at other times of year. So I'm really intrigued by this book. I'm intrigued by its message and what it's hopefully going to impart, some wisdom, some stats, whatever it's going to have in it. So I'm going to check in with you after each chapter, because that's what my deep dive vlogs do. It's a chapter by chapter check-in. And I'm excited to read this with you. Hello. Wanted to check in. I have read the prologue and into about halfway through October. So the book is kind of divided into months, and then within each month it has a few chapters, except for September, which is just the prologue of the book. So far, I'm really liking it. It's not what I thought. I thought it was a bit more of a gathering of some stats or like facts about rest, but it's not really that at all. I would say this is actually more like a memoir if I had to categorize it, and I don't know if someone else has categorized it that way, but it begins with Katharine May's kind of foreboding of what's coming and feeling this sense of knowing that a wintering time is coming, and it's something that she's experienced before in her life. And there were a few passages that really struck me in the prologue, so I wanted to read those to you. Everybody winters at one time or another, some winter over and over again. Wintering is a season in the cold. It is a fallow period in life when you're cut off from the world, feeling rejected, sidelined, blocked from progress, or cast into the role of an outsider. Perhaps it results from an illness or a life event such as a bereavement or the birth of a child. Perhaps it comes from a humiliation or failure. Perhaps you're in a period of transition and have temporarily fallen between two worlds. Some winterings creep upon us more slowly, accompanying the protracted death of a relationship, the gradual ratcheting up of carrying responsibilities as our parents age, the drip, drip, drip of lost confidence. Some are appallingly sudden, like discovering one day that your skills are considered obsolete, the company you worked for has gone bankrupt, or your partner is in love with someone new. However it arrives, wintering is usually involuntary, lonely, and deeply painful. So I found that really, set the tone kind of for what she is going to go through herself, and then what the book is kind of talking about, and wanting people to take away this kind of idea that it's a natural process, just as natural as the winter season itself. So that is what I want to say about the prologue. I'm very close to finishing the October section, and then I will check in again with you about that section. Hi everyone. So I have finished the October section of Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katharine May. And this section covers a lot of ground in what's going on overall in the book. She talks about the idea of making ready. So this preparing for winter, preparing for cold weather, mostly in the idea of food preparation, and relates kind of some different anecdotes about that from different cultures and different friends and things like that. She then talks about her husband getting ill, and the impact that has on her and her son and their life. And she talks about her birthday, her approaching 40th birthday, and the plans that they had around that, and then her own health. And she's having some health issues herself. And they were supposed to be going away to celebrate her birthday, and then, she's taking time off work, and she's feeling guilty about potentially going on a trip when she's not feeling well. But then the doctor says, I think you should go. I think you should, experience your life. You never know what's around the corner, which is kind of this foreboding feeling. And then the chapter ends with Halloween and kind of her thoughts about Halloween. This is Katharine May is from the UK, so it was interesting actually reading her perspectives on Halloween, because in North America it's such a different holiday. I think it's a holiday here that we are very used to, but in the UK it's something new that they haven't really celebrated much before. And I think it's probably the influence of North America that is creating it there. So yeah, that was interesting. She also talks about water and like the healing properties of water a bit, and saunas. And she has a friend who's Finnish, and she talks about the kind of sauna culture in Finland, and I found that really interesting as well. And I'm going to read you one little section, which this is near the end of the October section, where she's talking about Halloween, but relating it to the pagan holiday of Samhain, which happened around the same time of year as Halloween does now. But winter is a time when death comes closest, when the cold feels as though it might yet snatch us away, despite our modern comforts. We still perceive the presence of those we've lost in the silence of those long evenings and in the depths of darkness that they bring. This is the season of ghosts. Their pale forms are invisible in bright sunlight. Winter makes them clear again. Yeah, so I really liked that passage. There's a lot of just quite poignant writing in the book, which I'm really enjoying. Just these poignant kind of simple sentiments that it kind of make you pause and think for a few minutes. So yeah. Hey everyone. So I've completed the November section of Wintering, and in the November section, she talks about the transformation of the land during November. So how, the the leaves fall from the trees and the frost starts coming on. And she focuses on some animals as well in this section. And she also talks about sleep and slumber and rest and hibernation, the concept of hibernation. She visits a dormouse scientist in this section and learns about how they cope with the cold and what their bodies do. And she also talks about the concept of sleep and how sleep has changed. And this is actually something that I learned previously, but before we were all kind of inundated with artificial light, humans would often go to sleep when it got dark. So in the winter, obviously, that's very early. So, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and sleep for like 5 hours or so. They would wake up and do things, quiet things. So they'd read, or they would talk, or they would even visit neighbors and things like that, and have an hour or two where they were awake, and then they would go back to sleep and wake up at sunrise. And she doesn't go and delve into it too much in this book, but as a concept, I find that super interesting. And I often think about people complaining that they go to sleep and then they wake up in the night. And we have decided in our culture that that's insomnia. And in some cases it definitely is. People don't feel rested. But I think that it could also harken back to sort of this primitive instinct that we have, that we're not supposed to sleep, for 12 hours straight or 8 hours straight or whatever. We're supposed to have this little meditative break from sleeping in the middle of the night when it's quiet and it's dark. And I find that very intriguing. And I don't know, I never really feel that way myself when I wake up in the middle of the night, because we don't have a culture right now that that has that kind of connection and the rhythm with the darkness that I think we used to before we started using artificial light to the extent that we use it today. But I just wanted to read a little section here about that concept. There is not enough night left for us. We have lost our true instincts for darkness, its invitation to spend some time in the proximity of our dreams. Our personal winters are so often accompanied by insomnia. Perhaps we're drawn towards that unique space of intimacy and contemplation, darkness and silence, without really knowing what we're seeking. Perhaps, after all, we are being urged towards our own comfort. Sleep is not a dead space, but a doorway to a different kind of consciousness, one that is reflective and restorative, full of tangential thought and unexpected insights. In winter, we are invited into a particular mode of sleep, not a regimented 8 hours, but a slow, ambulatory process in which waking thoughts merge with dreams, and space is made in the blackest hours to repair the fragmented narratives of our days. So, yeah, there's some really nice little nuggets of thought in this book so far. And I'll check in again once I have completed December. Hey everyone. So I am finished the December section of Wintering. And in this section, Katharine may visit Stonehenge for the winter solstice and experiences the kind of rituals that happen there at that time of year. And that is, I don't know if everyone knows this, but you can, there are certain times of year, I think basically the winter solstice and the summer solstice, where people are permitted to go into amongst the stones and experience the sunrise at them in a way that is kind of ritualistic and symbolic, trying to honor what the stones were used for thousands of years ago. So she goes to that ritual in a very atheistic way, in a very exploratory way to see what that was like. She also has a bonfire on the beach with friends, and this is the section where her son has begun to be really not comfortable at school, and he has some bullying, and so she pulls him out of school. And she talks about that and how she encourages him to heal from that experience and to disengage from school because it's breaking his spirit in a way. I felt like there was quite a bit of privilege in this section that she didn't really acknowledge, considering that it's not always feasible for people to take their children out of school when something is going wrong for their children in school. It's not just that simple sometimes to pull them out and cuddle with them and watch movies and kind of help them heal. And she didn't really say how privileged they were to experience that, so I thought that was a little bit of a miss. And then she also talks about, the period of Christmas and the rituals that they have in their family and the stress around that, but also how she was able at this time to kind of engage in the spirit of the season and go shopping and enjoy the small parts of the holiday. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me from that section. And I'm going to head into January now. Hello. So I finished the January section of Wintering. And in the January section, we go to the Arctic Circle. And it is a time when the author is pregnant. And we kind of hear about her pregnancy, her struggle to get pregnant, and then her journey that she just had to see the Northern Lights when she was pregnant. So that is the first chapter. And the second chapter is about meeting a man who studies wolves and kind of advocates for wolves in Europe. And she talks to him and then talks about wolves and their hunger and their kind of, menacing reputation, and this kind of idea of their ravenousness in relation to wintertime and the myths around that. And so that's the January section pretty much. And something struck me when I was reading the January section. I found that sometimes the chapters are all very much the same length, and I think that some of the subjects that she covers in the book lend themselves fine to a shorter chapter, and then some of them don't. So it's a bit rushed, I think, in some cases. I think the book would have been better if it had a bit more depth in some of the cases, because I feel like in some instances she's just brushing off, rushing through something, and it doesn't feel resolved by the end of the chapter, and things aren't really revisited later. So, I'm kind of craving that resolution. Okay. So that is the end of January. And I'll check in again and chat to you about February, March, and then I think the last section is the epilogue. And then the book is finished. Okay. Hello. Join me with, you can't see, but I'm basically surrounded by laundry. Okay, so Wintering. I think the sections I'd love to talk about are February and March. Let me check that. Yes. Okay. So February and March are what's left to talk about. So February starts with snow, and Catherine May talks about some different depictions of snow and how snow makes you feel this insulated feeling during the cold of winter and things like that, which was good. And she talks about like how where she lives in England is kind of lacks snow, and so her son was like 6 before he actually saw real snow or something like that, so that was cute. And she kind of talks about the fun of snow and kind of its inherent kind of call for you to play. And then the second part of February is called Cold Water, and I really liked this section. It's about cold water swimming, which is something that I can't say that I've ever really done. I have definitely been in cold water, but I've never purposefully gone into cold water in the winter time to swim on purpose. But apparently it makes you feel fantastic. So it is kind of like there's studies around it. It's very popular in Iceland. It's very popular in different parts of the world. And I just can't bring myself to do it because of obvious reasons. You don't want to feel cold like that. But I am curious about how I would feel if I did do it. So it's a potential something that I might do someday. But this section in the book, she really goes into how she did it with this other woman. And they made this commitment to be like accountability partners to do it together. And it really kept them motivated and kept them engaged in the practice. So I found that section to be really, really interesting. And then we hit March, and we go through survival. She talks a bit about Sylvia Plath and how Sylvia Plath did not survive her winter. So, you know, obviously this metaphorical wintering of the soul, like a dark night of the soul. Obviously there are many people that succumb to that time of their lives and aren't able to keep going. And then the second part of March is about song and singing and how she loves robins and their song and how she herself struggled with her voice. And it sounds like it was kind of post-motherhood that she struggled with her voice and how she came back to being able to use it again and how she had to kind of relearn to sing and relearn to assert her voice in a different way once she was a mother. And late March is the conclusion. And I liked the conclusion. I thought that she wrapped up the book very well by kind of saying that, you know, I don't have some big epiphany to share with you about this. These are the cycles of our lives and we move through them, and there will be another winter time. And we will endure and we will go through, and that's the cycle of how life is. It's not linear. So, you know, overall, I think it was a really great book. I think what I mentioned before about it not having, it just lacked a little bit of depth for me. I think I would have liked it to be another 50 pages, another 100 pages. I just feel like there were sections that were really great and needed more, and there were sections that, you know, were fine in length, and so, but I just felt there was a uniformity. She tried to keep all the thoughts succinct and the same length, and I don't think you can necessarily do that. I think some things need more elaboration than others. And overall, I did enjoy it, and there were parts of it that I found really great, but I don't think it was, like, it didn't affect me emotionally very much. So I think maybe it suffered a little bit because she tried to weave a lot of things into this book, and I think some of the things needed to be by them. Like her thoughts about being a mother could have probably had their own book. And also, I don't feel like the subtitle, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times, like she definitely talked about retreat, but she didn't really talk that much about rest. And she talked about it in terms of not working. She talked about it in terms of, you know, having some cozy days watching movies and things like that, but not about the actual concept of rest, which I find really interesting and which is something that I think I'd like to read more about. So if you've read a book, I know there's that Atesha Mosfeg book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I've heard mixed reviews about, so I've been kind of humming and hawing about whether I should try that or not. But if there's any other book, nonfiction preferably, I think in this way, that you know of that talks about rest as a concept and rest as like even scientifically, yes, but not necessarily super sciencey, because I don't like science super books, blah, blah, blah. Books that get too sciencey. I tend to glaze over, my eyes glaze over, but I'm interested in people exploring the concept of rest, and especially in relation to our culture today and how our culture makes you feel guilty for resting because it makes you feel like you're not being productive. And I know she did go into that in here, but it feels like there was a lot of other things. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and she didn't really deep dive into rest the way I would have liked. So let me know if you've read anything that you think would speak to that, because I'm interested. And I'm gonna leave this vlog here. Thank you very much for watching. I am hoping to do a deep dive vlog every month of this year. And I'm gonna wait and see what books come up for BookTube Prize before I finalize my February TBR. And hopefully I get a really good one that's gonna have a lot of juicy stuff that I can deep dive vlog into. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon.